friends in a podcast. We're so glad you're here. We're your hosts, Natasha and Lindsey. Do you have a method of procrastination? The thing that you always just go to whenever you don't want to do the things that need to be done?
Oh, this is such a great question because I am so good at procrastinating. If there were awards for this, I think I could probably win a few. Um, Currently, it's just scrolling, right? Like I can get sucked into that real easy, and then all of a sudden it's um been, an hour. What about you? What's your mode of procrastination?
I camp out on the couch, and recently it has been rewatching Big Brother. I'm currently on season 9, and I just have been binge watching all the seasons from years past. But when I turn that TV on and I sit down, the laundry's not getting folded, the house isn't getting cleaned. I am in it to win it for the night.
Same. I think it was my sister who sent it to me recently, but there's a meme that says, when I have time to fold the laundry, I don't. And I don't think I've related to anything more in my life because I currently am looking at a basket of laundry that I need to fold, and there's more in other parts of my house. So, you know, we just we do the best we can, and sometimes we don't.
Sometimes we don't. That's like today. I felt so productive. I worked from home, so I was able to put some laundry in. And at 5, I was able to switch it over. I was like, this is going to be great. We're not recording until 7:30. So I will even have time to fold the laundry and put it away before we record.
How'd that
It
go?
is absolutely sitting in the dryer right now, still.
Yes.
Yep,
Uh-huh.
and it will probably stay there until I decide that I need to put it away because I need my hamper to put the dirty clothes in that are piling up somewhere. So I'm just being honest. Like, it's just the way it goes.
You know, we couldn't be more the same.
Laundry's the worst. It never ends, and I live alone, so I don't know how you do it with a family.
I don't. See, that's the problem. And what's great is that I've taught my oldest, he turned 10 last week, and he's been doing laundry this year. So that's really helpful because I can be like, you need to go put your laundry in the washer, and he can take care of it. I still fold it usually, if it gets folded before they run out of it again. But, you know,
One step
delegating's
at a
a
time.
wonderful thing.
Yeah. I think that's a great intro to what we're talking about today, priorities. We had so much fun talking about balance and rhythm last week and the different ways that they play a part in who we are. That we wanted to segue a little bit more into priorities and time management because we can't have balance or rhythm without really knowing what we're prioritizing in our lives to have rhythm with.
A
Um,
100%. Yeah.
I found this definition online. I think it was from vocabulary.com. It says priority comes from the word prior, which means to come before something else. A priority is the concern, interest, or desire that comes before all others. And so I thought that's really great because the thing about priorities is that we get to define them in our lives and they can look different for us. And it's what I choose to put ahead of everything else in my life. And that can look different for my family prioritization, my friend prioritization, career, everything.
Oh, 100%. And it's huge because then I know, like, for me, it's helpful to be able to kind of see like where I want to go. And so that helps me set my priorities. And it's been an interesting journey as an adult to try to figure that out because when you're in your 20s, like I don't know about you, I felt like everything was just really fast, but I wanted to spend time with lots of people and do things. And um so like that was the priority. But then as I've gotten older and had a family and like those priorities, they shift a lot. I still love to spend time with people and do lots of fun things, but how and when I do it has changed for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. My 20s are such a blur. I don't even think that prioritization or time management was two words that I could formulate a sentence with, to be quite honest with you. Like from the time I was 20 to 28, I traveled. I was on the road almost every other weekend doing church events or youth rallies or wherever Master's Commission took us for that weekend. And then I was trying to manage doing online classes during that time. And that probably was about the most time management that my brain could possibly function with, because it was literally come home, do your laundry, pack your bags, you're leaving again. You need to write a sermon, you need to do this. And I just kind of went with it, right? Like whatever the day took us, memorizing scripture. I just feel like it was a bowl of spaghetti up in my brain all the time, constantly. And now as I'm older, I realize like I can't do life that way anymore. The bowl of spaghetti doesn't work. And so I really have to be conscientious of what I'm prioritizing, or it just falls all apart.
Yeah, I mean, similar to that, I was working on staff at a church for most of my 20s. So, um, my job was working with kids ministry, so that calendar is pretty full in and of itself. And so then you add in, I would take some girls out and like we would go get ice cream or we'd get lunch, and um, we started a midweek Bible study program for the kids of the church that I was working in while I was there. So there were lots of different things happening all the time. And then in the
Mm.
summertime, we would always host other churches from other parts of the country. They would come to our church for a week at a time, and we would do kids programs in the park. We would do practical things for the community. And so the summertime, I didn't have a summer. Like summer was so full. And so it was usually after that that I would like recoup, but then it's launching back into back to school season. So then you're kind of resetting those rhythms again for the school calendar. And it was never ending. And there's always something happening. And I wouldn't change any of that. I loved that experience, but it was just a lot of movement, a lot of things to juggle. And I don't remember outside of that, like, because there was just so much to it. I don't remember what I did outside of that to like prioritize things or use time management for my personal life, because so much of my life was like structured around like the school calendar or the church calendar. So it was, yeah, it was a lot.
I completely feel that. Sometimes I feel that way even now. Like I do really well at prioritizing in my personal life, but then like my career is one of those careers that just can change at the drop of a hat. You get a last minute order in from a client who needs 5 people tomorrow morning or in 2 days. And so now you have shifted your gears from working on 3 office roles to a last minute catering need that just came through the door. And I try to time block my calendar so like meticulously. I have interviews in the morning, I have recruiting times, midday, and then lunch, and then more interviews and more recruiting time. And then there's just some days that that's not realistic. The other day was one of those days. I had interviews scheduled out and we're on morning meet, and they're like, hey, if we can secure this client visit in Brunswick, which is 45 minutes away, can you make it today? And I was like, I'll make it work. We'll figure it out. It's going to be great. And we did. And it was great. And we drove 45 minutes for a 10-minute meeting and we were in and out the door. But those are the things that can happen so quickly. And it makes me laugh because I'm like, how do you prioritize in a world that doesn't allow you to prioritize sometimes?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. When I worked in one of the offices that I worked in a few years ago, I loved the fact that I had like I knew that I had different reports and things I had to run throughout the week. And outside of that, it was every day looked completely different. And you just never knew like what was going to come up or who was going to come in, or when the coffee machine was broken, that was my responsibility to fix. So like
Yeah.
you would just never know. And I liked that because even though there was some standard rhythmic things, right? Like these reports have to be done on this day, and these meetings are set. Everything else was so fluid, and for me, I really enjoyed that because it was not so routine that you could get bored, right? Like there was still so much going on, and yeah, it was a good time, but you just never knew, like from, you know, meetings to oh, hey, by the way, can you just go fix this thing real quick? Sure, let me see what I can do. And that's just an interesting way to work, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of career paths, it probably are a lot of people say, like, at my job, XYZ can change the whole course of the day. I think that's just the nature sometimes, unfortunately, of workspaces. I'm sure there are some jobs that are super just consistent all the time. I personally don't know that I would thrive well in those environments, if I'm being honest, because I try to structure so much of my life. We were talking today at work in our PM meet, and we were joking that for some of us, we're so organized during our workday. When we go home, that organization gets thrown right out the door. And
Yes.
sometimes I do feel that way too, because I try to stay so structured at work. So it makes it hard. Some days I feel like I'm really not structured at work, and then I'm very structured outside of work. So I think it just kind of ebbs and flows for me on that piece of it.
Yeah, it's hard for I don't feel like we've been super organized lately, but I do think that we've done a much better job at making sure like prioritizing like our family time first and then kind of working everything else around it. Whereas for a long time it was flipped. It was everything else came first and then we might try to squeeze in family time somewhere and it
Mhm.
didn't ever happen because everything there's always something that comes up. And so now, um, it's nice to be able to have that, but it's also still hard because, like, for instance, this month we keep getting messages from school for the boys and like, oh, this event's happening on this day and this event's happening on this day. And I just sat down with my boss and we had scheduled out some meetings and I was like, I don't know if I can make all of these happen. And so you have to kind of pick and choose sometimes, but it's crazy that it always happens all at once. And then you're trying to figure out, like, okay, can you make this one? And I'll try to make the next one and make it fit in the schedule. And thankfully, my boss is great and I have a really flexible schedule, but I also still have to get stuff done too. So, how do you
Yeah.
balance it all?
But that brings up a great question. How do you manage your time while making sure you're prioritizing the right dynamics for yourself and for your family?
That is a great question. I don't know that um, I definitely don't have it mastered. And I think that's one of those we're always going to be learning. And especially because like I have two kids, right? So they're growing and their needs and their stuff is going to change throughout the years too. And so I think as long as we keep the mindset, kind of like we talked about before, like don't like if you're flexible and you can't be bent out of shape, trying to be flexible in it. But I think that it's important to have um the the things that are important, like your foundation. That's the word I'm looking for. The foundation should be your non-negotiables. Like this is not negotiable, whether that's, date night with a spouse or meeting up with girlfriends or time with your kids, like whatever those foundational things are, like they can't be negotiable. And then you can work and fit other pieces in around those things. And like for us, we found in the last couple of years that it's really helpful to have a set family day. And so for us, it's Friday, and that's only been in the last year that we've been able to do that. And it's been really helpful because then when we're scheduling meetings, and of course, there's like the random Friday that will kind of pivot a little bit and do something different. But we try to make up for that by having a family day on a different night of the week. But typically, Friday is our family day. So my husband and I, we try to have a date during the day while the boys are in school. And then at nighttime, when we pick them up from school through the rest of the day, it's time for us as a family. So, movie night, so go somewhere fun, stuff like that. And so because we've prioritized Friday, we know that we're not intentionally scheduling meetings on Friday and we're not, unless there's events at our church, which is completely different, and that will happen. We try to ebb and flow with that, but it's not the norm. And so because we try to make that a non-negotiable, we try to fit it in first. And so I think it's not an easy thing. And like honestly, this is new for us because I alluded to it before, but for so much of our 20s, everybody else and every other thing came first, and then it was us and like our family. And at the time, we had a small baby, so it's easier because you can just kind of carry them with you wherever you go, and they go with the flow, and it's no big deal. But as time has gone on and they're getting older and they need routine and we have bedtime and all of that stuff, um, we have to prioritize that over the other things. And so I think as we're learning, it's becoming more of a habit, but it just takes time to figure out what works for you. And if it's not Friday night, like that's okay. It can be, and it can look different for every family. But I think having non-negotiables to work around help kind of set the framework to figure out what the priorities are.
Yeah, can you share a little bit when we were planning for this? You were talking about like thinking about the end result and working backwards. Can you kind of share that theory that you have that you like to do whenever you're prioritizing and doing time management that way?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up. So for me, it's easier to think through it backwards. And so, for instance, like the end goal of, let's say, my relationship with my boys, right? I know that when they're 20 something, I want to have a really good, solid foundation of a good relationship with them. So, what does that look like right now when they're 10 and 6? Well, that looks like family dinner time where the TV's not on and we're having dinner together. And I'd love to say that we do that 5 days a week. That's not realistic. But as often as we can, we're having dinner at the table, we're talking to each other, we're talking in the car and we're asking questions like, how was school today? What are you thankful for? And I try to prioritize, and this one's a little bit harder um, to fit in sometimes, but I try to do one-on-one things with each of them at different times so that we're together alone and we get to do something fun. And so we're building that relationship now so that when they're teenagers and I'm not cool anymore, at least they can know that they can talk to me, right? And I hope that we're building the relationship now so that when they're 15 and 16 and 18 and 20 something, they do still want to hang out. And um, so that's like one way that I try to look at it from that perspective. So, if it's not necessarily with children, it could be, losing weight, right? You can easily do that. I want to lose 75 pounds. So today I'm going to eliminate this thing or cut back or, however that works for people. I have yet to master that one. So I can't really say I should be speaking on that. But, sometimes looking ahead. So like, and maybe it's not an end result from like 20 years from now, right? Or 10 years from now. Maybe the end result is, I want to read 12 books this year. Okay, so that's a book a month. So what book are you going to read this month? And it can be fun things too to bring into your priorities, but that's been helpful for me. And I think that it's just been a way to break it down a little bit easier so that you can put it into bite-sized pieces so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming. That's like, oh my goodness, my kids aren't going to know how to talk to me. Well, well, if we start now when they're little, then hopefully it's making progress. But how does that work for you?
Yeah, I think that it's, pretty similar. I think back when I was prepping for this a little bit about just my own like journey to health. And I don't like to call it a weight loss journey. It certainly was that for me. But I always called it my health journey, and I'm still on it. I'm not perfect at it by any means. Um, so, but I remember like seeing a family member in a health crisis essentially, and knowing that like I could end up that way if I kept going through the path. It was just bad habits learned from bad habits, right? Growing up. And I had adopted a lot of that from our family. And we didn't always eat healthy or great or any of those things. And so my weight was significantly impacted. And when this family member had their heart attack, I was like, I don't want to be that person. But at that point in that stage, I was on the road to pre-diabetes and like all of this stuff. And so in my head, it was like, okay, I have to make choices. But that was super overwhelming for me because it's like I didn't know where to start, how to start, where to go. And I just knew I needed to prioritize my health, right? And so that prioritization kind of looked the same. It was kind of looking at the bigger picture. Long term, how do I achieve this, and researching my options, working with my doctor, working with my dietitian, and working towards the end goal, but breaking it down so it wasn't so overwhelming that, okay, I need to lose X amount of weight to eliminate all of these issues. Because when you're looking at that and it's a bigger number than what you care for it to be, you're overwhelmed. You're like, I'm never going to get there. It's easy to kind of spiral into that negative mindset of those things. But then I remember, like, when sitting with my dietitian one time, she was like, you don't have to make everything a priority today.
Mm.
And in my head, I had to. I had to stop eating fried food today. I had to stop eating fast food today. I had to stop drinking soda today. I was an addict to food, and I, in my head, thought I have to quit cold turkey to all of these things today
Yeah.
in order to get where I want to be tomorrow. And that was just wasn't realistic. First of all, I could quit all of those things today and be miserable tomorrow if I did that, right? So maybe it looked like, okay, I'm going to prioritize drinking 64 ounces of water today. Okay, next week I'm going to prioritize 80 ounces of water. Okay, this week I'm not going to eat any fast food. Next week I'm not going to eat any fast food. I'm going to eliminate sugar this week. And like really just breaking it down and creating healthy habits over time. And a lot of just tools that I worked with my doctors and all those things to get to the end goal. And sometimes prioritization of yourself or the things you want to do require support to do those things, right? And so when you were talking about your family, I thought, oh, that's so great. She does one-on-one time with her boys, but she wouldn't be able to do that without the support of her husband, and
Right.
vice versa. And like it's sometimes prioritizing the things that are important to us is also about aligning the right people at the right times to support us through those journeys and helping us to prioritize the things that are important to us and reminding us why it's important to us. I'm sure that there are days that it's hard raising the boys, but having that support of somebody who says, no, we're doing this for the right reasons because we want to give them a good life. And on my side, like it was hard losing that weight. It wasn't easy, but I had really amazing people in my life. You, a couple of my friends that I'm close to as well. Like they just stood in the gap of the days that it was hard to prioritize yourself. And so I think that that is such a huge thing of, finding what's important to you and surrounding yourself with the people who are going to cheer you on and who are also going to tell you on your bad days, get your butt up and keep going.
Yeah.
Let you have a bad day, but get up and keep going. Don't stop where you're at. And it doesn't always look perfect. And we don't always make the right choices and prioritize the right things. But tomorrow's a new day and we can reassess and reevaluate, why wasn't it a priority yesterday? Maybe other things got in the way of it being a priority. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That happens. There are legit moments we just don't have the time to do what we need to do for the things that are important to us. But if you're constantly neglecting the things that are important to you, that is the moment that you need to sit back and reevaluate, why is this not a priority to me? Am I procrastinating? Is there fear of making it a priority? Fear of
Absolutely.
failure, fear of regret, like all of those things. And so I think for me, just really making sure that I'm reflecting on what I'm prioritizing or what I'm not prioritizing and why.
Yeah. And while you were talking, it reminded me too that sometimes, like when you were saying, well, I can eliminate this one thing today, right? Like for me, with my boys, it's been, well, maybe I'm leaving the dishes in the sink until after they go to bed so that I can spend that extra 25, 35 minutes playing a game before they get ready for bed, or we're reading a book together. And so it doesn't have to be a big, oh, we went out for dinner together, but taking those small moments and saying, this time is for us. And so now that my boys are, again, like they're getting older, so my younger son goes to bed before my older son. So when he's in bed, I can have one-on-one time with him and we're playing a game where we're catching up and talking about what happened at school or his favorite book or things like that. And so those are the moments that even though we haven't been out like doing something big, it's still taking that time and we had time together, just me and him. So I think you're right when we have to sometimes break it down to like those little tiny things and not overwhelm it with, well, we didn't go out for dinner, or I didn't bring them mini golfing, or but those little things, they do matter because you're filling up their bucket. And over time, like you're earning their trust and you're earning, that with them. And so when it comes to making them a priority, and just in general, like even with people, it doesn't have to just be children, right? Like those little things. And I think we've talked about it before, but like grab a friend and go do grocery shopping together, right? Like we don't always have to go out for dinner. We can find little ways to invest in our relationships that make it a priority, and we're still getting things accomplished. And maybe it'll be productive for both of you, right?
I agree. I just read a quote recently, or just more of a saying, where this girl was talking about prioritizing your relationships and your friendships. And she said, stop asking and start saying you want them there and make them feel like they are the priority to you. And she said, don't say, hey, do you want to go to the grocery store with me? I have to run some errands. Reformat that sentence to make them feel like they're a priority in that moment. Hey, I haven't gotten to catch up with you this week. I'm headed to the grocery store to run some errands. I would love for you to join me. It changes the whole invite in the conversation of, I miss you. I want to spend some quality time with you, but this is the time frame that I have it in. I would love for you to be there with me while I do this, so we have a chance to connect.
So good. I love that. So what are some ways that you can work on that this week? Like, I guess we'll turn it to our listeners, right? And just ask, like, what are some practical, really small ways that you can start to make changes in your priorities instead of feeling overwhelmed by all the things you're not doing? Let's reformat that and think about, like, okay, but what can I do right now? And one of my friends uses this phrase, and it's been really helpful for me. Do as you can, not as you can't.
I love that.
And
That's good.
it's so good, right? Like, so maybe this week you can't go out for dinner, but what can you do at home? Like maybe this week you can't connect with a friend, but can you FaceTime or send a Marco Polo or, you know, Snapchat? Like there's so many different avenues. It doesn't have to be um at dinner.
Extravagant.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it can
it
be
doesn't
little
have to
things.
be a big thing.
So,
Yeah,
I think there's so much that we can learn from that and take away. And, I was watching this video, but they were saying that sending reels is actually a form of like love and communication because have you heard the term pebbling? Have you heard this?
yes, I know exactly what video you're talking about. We may have sent it to each other. I'm dying over
Probably.
here.
But I think it's so adorable and it's really kind of fun. Like I was thinking about you when I saw this video, and so I sent it to you. And
Mhm.
I think that's just great. Like it's fun. I love
I
it.
love it. So if you don't know what pebbling is, it's when penguins bring a pebble to their mate, and that is their mate for that. But in our world, it's just, I'm thinking of you. I care about you, and I'm sending you this reel because you're on my mind, and it reminded me of you.
100%.
I love it. So yeah, so just to wrap it up, think about those things. What can you do this week to get to the end goal? What are one or two small habits that are going to get you closer to the end goal that you have, um, to succeed or to build better relationships? Whatever it is that you want to accomplish at the end of the day, what can you do this week? That's a wrap on this episode of Two Main Friends in a Podcast. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram. You can also send us an email at twomainfriends@gmail.com. And as always, leave us a review wherever you're listening.